Let us understand what is composition levy and how it is dealt with respect to e-commerce operator. Section 10 of CGST Act defines composition levy and what are the criteria applicable to opt for this particular scheme. Here I have mentioned what is the who can opt for this scheme and who cannot opt for the scheme as per the Act. To opt for this scheme, the aggregate turnover per annum in the financial year should be less than 1.5 crore. This is previous financial year. We have to check whether the aggregate turnover is within the threshold limit of 1.5 crore. What includes and excludes turnover, we will come to it later. And who can opt for it is manufacturer of goods, dealers, restaurants excluding alcohol services, and other service providers also can opt for this scheme. This is dealt in notification 2/2019, but here I am explaining only with respect to section 10. I am not dealing with notification number 2/2019. And who cannot opt for this scheme, very clearly defined in the section, that manufacturer of ice cream, palm masala or tobacco, a person who is making interstate supplies, and casual taxable person, non-resident taxable person, and the person dealing in the goods which are not applicable under GST and where the threshold limit of 1.5 crore is exceeded for an SSE, and where the business which supply goods through e-commerce operator, these SSEs cannot opt for this scheme. They have to go under regular scheme only. And what are the advantages of this particular scheme? It is easy to compliance, and the SSE need not maintain any books of accounts, records and all, and it is simple quarterly return with quarterly payment of tax. And the tax rates may vary from time to time. These are the present tax rates with respect to various businesses applicable. And for example, this manufacturers and traders of goods, it is 1% total, and restaurants not serving alcohol, it is very specifically mentioned not serving alcohol because alcohol does not fall under GST. So it is 5%, other service providers 6%. Latest, this particular manufacturer of bricks is included recently, and that is 6%. The threshold limit of 1.5 crore and these tax rates and various businesses may keep changing from time to time. We have to keep updating with respect to those particular aspects. And how the turnover is being calculated. With respect to previous financial year, under that particular PAN, how many GST numbers are there? We have to add all the taxable supplies, exempt supplies, and exports of goods or services are both interstate supplies. We have to add all these category of supplies and exclude the supplies on which RCM is applicable. That should not be included, so that has to be excluded. And if there is any taxes or cess is included in that particular supplies, that also have to be excluded, and check if the turnover in the previous financial year is within the threshold limit of 1.5 crore, then the SSE can go for opt for this particular scheme. Once he opts for this particular scheme, he will not be eligible for input tax credit. And now let us see the transaction and how it is being treated for GST. Say the consumer is placing the order through an app or website of an e-commerce operator. Okay, and e-commerce operator receives the order and he supplies gives the order to the actual supplier from whom the consumer wanted. See, under e-commerce operator there may be various suppliers. So, but consumer would have ordered that particular product whichever he wanted from specific supplier. So, the e-commerce operator indicates the order to the actual supplier, and the supplier sends the material or goods or services to the recipient. The order may include goods and also services, or goods or only services also. It may be combination of both, or it may be different. Now let us see how the taxes are being collected. See, suppose here I have taken one column for goods and one column for services. So if suppose the order includes goods and services, logic will be same, then one total column will come. If it is only goods, this is the logic we have to apply, and if it is services, this logic has to be applied, otherwise it will be same pattern. Now say for example the basic value of the goods is 500 and services is 1000, and GST, because it is under composition supply, so it is 5%. For example, in the whatever service I have selected, say for example it is 5% is applicable, so I have taken 50 rupees, and here it is being goods, it is considered 18%. This rate also may be anything, it may be any rate, it can be 28% or 18%, 12%. But in the given example, I have taken 18%, so it is 90 rupees. So total value of supplies is 590 and 1050. This is what the order placed by the consumer through e-commerce operator to the actual supplier. Now, who will pay taxes on these particular transactions? In case of goods, the taxes has to be paid by the supplier through e-commerce operator. If it is a supplier of goods, tax has to be paid by the supplier, and tax invoice has to be given by the supplier because he is liable to pay tax. In case of services, the taxes are paid by the e-commerce operator. So what e-commerce operator does is, out of 1050, he will deduct this 50 rupees and pay balance amount only to the actual supplier, because he is liable to pay this tax, not the supplier, actual supplier. And coming to invoice, because he is paying the tax, he will raise the invoice and he will pay the tax. But supplier also has to give invoice, but it is not invoice, it is bill of supply, because it is under composition scheme. He will give bill of supply to the e-commerce operator, and e-commerce operator will give tax invoice to the consumer. With respect to services, if it is with respect to goods, it is, so invoice has to be given by the actual supplier. But actually, when it happens, e-commerce operator has to give separate invoices for services and goods. It cannot be mixed up, basically, because here the supplier has to issue the invoice, but in practical scenario, this will not, we will not see supplier invoice coming when we receive goods from the e-commerce operator. Okay, but the supplier is responsible to issue the tax invoice. Whether TCS is applicable? Yes, in case of goods where the goods are supplied through e-commerce operator, TCS is applicable, 1%, 0.5, 0.5. So e-commerce operator will also deduct the TCS of this 1% before giving money to the supplier. So he deducts this particular tax and also TCS with respect to goods. And in case of services, this does not apply. There is no need for TCS, because here why TCS is included is the department is taking track of these goods where it is supplied by the supplier, because here supplier is responsible. That is the reason this TCS is applied here and not here. And this is with respect to the goods supplied to the consumer through e-commerce operator by supplier. For doing all this, for making all this transaction, e-commerce operator has done the service to the supplier. So e-commerce operator will raise separate invoice on the supplier, and he will charge 18% and collect the tax and pay to the government. This is how it happens. Hope you understood. Thank you.